Okay, so this is our model house right here. We're going to begin laying out our markings for our floor joists. Before we do that, it's important to pay attention to the orientation of your project. So I asked you guys to install a beam in the center of your project. Now, if we were to install joists going in this direction from left to right, then this beam would be redundant. Okay, so if we install joists going this way, there is nothing resting underneath these joists here. Okay, so the way we need to orientate this is, if I'm facing this beam is this way. Okay, left to right. Therefore, our joists will go the opposite way around, like this. Okay, they'll go from north to south. Therefore, they rest on that beam in the middle. Okay, so make sure you have this in the correct orientation when we're dealing with this. We have ours set up in the right orientation here with the beam this way. And the only two areas that you need to focus on are this rim joist here and these rim joists up here. So basically the north and the south points of your project. These left and the right parts here, these east and west parts, you don't have to do anything to these. Just ignore these parts for now, okay? We're only focusing with this rim joist and the ones on this north wall up here, okay? It starts out by getting your ruler. So if we look at our ruler right here, we should have had an S for our starting point on our ruler. We can have an S for our starting point, and that is on that left-hand side that we started with. We're going to get this left-hand side and we're going to rest it on this bottom left-hand corner down here. For this, I'm just going to slide this up so you can see this a little bit better. So here's my starting point on my ruler. This is my left-hand side. And I'm just going to hold this nice and flush against my model house like this. Okay, nice and flush against here. I'm going to hold this tight. I've also got it flush with the top. I'm going to hold this tight here. And I'm going to start marking all of these layout lines just like you did when you did it with this. But this time we're going to mark it onto the tops of the rim joist. Okay, so you don't have to do this first one. I'm going to move over to this first one here. Now when I do this, I want to mark these with a little X. And I'm just going to go all the way down the length of this rim joist, marking out to each one of these spacing. Now, each one of these here will eventually be the locations for your joists. Okay, so this is where your joist locations will eventually be. As I'm doing this, I'm keeping tight hold of my thumb and my finger here to keep this in place. I don't want this to move about. And if you made this ruler the length of one of those pieces of material I gave you, you should have enough to go the whole length with this. It shouldn't be short at all. And that's our last one right there. There's a space here and that would be our last joist there, okay? So there you can see our layout for our rim joists. So what this means is, when we go installing our joists, they would line up with each one of these markings, okay? So each one of these markings is a location where the joists would actually be set in place, okay? So with that laid out, with this S starting point on our left, I just want you to make a little S on the rim joist right here. And that's just a reference point. So I made a little S on the rim joist right there, okay? I'm going to slide this back down this way. Now, the trick to this now is to hold your ruler in the position you had it. You're going to hold it on top of your project and you're just going to slide the whole thing forwards. Okay? Slide the whole thing forwards. Now, for me, I'm doing this kind of upside down on camera here. But with this slid all the way up forwards, this should now be flush over here with this S. And you're going to mark this section out. So I'm going to make an S on my rim joist just so I know the reference. And I'm going to start doing this the best I can on camera here, guys. So I'm going to lay this out. Again, just like I did on that last one, with little X's marking out the location of each one of my joists. And the reason you want this to be the same as the one down here is to make each one of these parallel. Your joists have to be parallel, especially for when you're installing your subfloor. It's critical that these joists are all in place. Now, when I get to this little bay window here, I'll show you a little trick. So there's my last one before I get to my bay window here. Now, when I do this bay window here, I can't just move my ruler and start over from this side. I have to keep it consistent so everything lines in place. So if you can see over here, I could try and slide this up, but now this end is floating all over the place. It's hard for me to create a reference point here. So this is a little tip that I usually tell everyone. Grab a scrap piece of wood, hold it on the rim joist on this left-hand side, and overhang it a little bit over here. You can then get your ruler, you can lay it down like this, and you can slide it over to that little block. See how it hits that block right there? And there you have a referenced point. So now you know that this is perfectly in line with that rim joist. With that in place, I can hold this down and I can carry on marking my sections out. If you're doing this, don't stretch out like I am, guys. I'm doing this because it's just on camera here. But you would want to be in a comfortable position, making sure you can clearly see over the top while you're marking this. I think I'm doing an okay job considering not only am I doing it on camera, I'm trying to rush it for you. So here you can see this joist here is kind of half on. So I'm going to slide this back down to the way I had it before, flush with this edge over here on this left hand side. And then I can continue marking my joists out down this way. So there's one more right there. Okay, and then this would be a gap for that last one. Okay, so if I put these in place now, all of these should be parallel with one another. Okay, they should all be parallel all the way down. If these are wrong, then your joists are going to be skew. You're going to be lining it up on one end and it's going to not be square on another end. Okay, so make sure that they're parallel all the way down. And that is our rim joist layout. Okay, just to recap, we started off on this left hand side. We made an S for a starting point, laid it out. We kept our ruler flush with this left hand side and we marked out the top. I then got a scrap piece of wood to accommodate for my bay window here, and I lined it up so I could create a reference point. Continued the process over here and then I stepped it back down again. Okay, and there you have your layout. Last thing you can do is count the number of joists in the section, and then once you've done that, we can start the next video, which will talk about the actual installation process of these joists right here. Take care with this, make sure it's nice and precise, and I'll see you next time, guys.